Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our meeting today in regards to the QA at FNO. My name is Harry Mari and I'm your construction quality assurance rep. And I hope in this short presentation, I can establish some common language and understanding of what is the quality assurance in construction at SLAC and what is my role and how I could help the FNO department in achieving its quality efforts. So without further ado, let's start the presentation. So again, the emphasis on that we are a learning organization, and I just joined SLAC last year, and the information that I'm presenting is what I collected and understood from the system, and I'm still learning, so any feedback is welcome, and we are going to kind of work together in understanding each other's perspectives and value and respect each other's understanding and try to achieve a collaborative, safe environment where everybody can ask questions and kind of work in an environment that we all trust and have teamwork together. So please pay close attention and avoid multitasking. And if you have any questions after my presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask questions. And this presentation is available on slack.us/CQA, and you can follow with me as I'm presenting this presentation so that you can click on the live links and so forth. So our purpose today is to discuss 5 acronyms, actually 6 acronyms that are discussed very much in SLAC, and we want to understand what they are and how do they relate and why it's important to you to understand those. So the first one we're going to look at is CAS, and the main purpose of this section is to understand where those requirements and expectations are coming from. So as you know, Department of Energy has a management and operation contract with Stanford University. And in the contract, we have a clause H that talks about the contract assurance system. And this is how they monitor that we are performing according to the contract and we are doing what we say we do. So according to this, we have created a site compliance plan that will assure DOE that we are following the order 414D that is about the quality assurance. And CAS is actually the entire system for monitoring that from different aspects. So it's a trilateral issue that the Stanford and DOE, SLAC, and SLAC Stanford have at the same time. So where can you find this information? Well, as you know, there's the legal website that you can look at the contract, all those site compliance plans. We have the contract assurance website that explains all the process of CAS and how you can find more information about it. But the more important aspect of it that is related to your work would be under policies. So you really need to get yourself familiar with all the programs and policies that we have at SLAC, and you can find the contract assurance and quality assurance discussions under the tab for contractor and quality assurance. And most of the stuff that I'm going to be touching upon are going to be in regards to the quality assurance program that I'm part of. So what about CACM? And a lot of people hear about this contractor assurance, contract management section. So let's talk about line management and responsibilities for a second. So a lot of people in SLAC misinterpret what line management is, and they think of it as oversight and supervision, more about assigning tasks, managing hours, passing timesheets or whatever. It's actually more than that. So that could be part of it if you're a part of a functional department, but if you are part of a project or if you're part of a multidisciplinary task force, you might have multiple line management. So you need to understand understand that line management provides support and expertise. It builds and manages teams, but you have to be self-organized in working because they are trusting you as the expert in that field to take the requirements and expectations and flow it down from top management to all staff within SLAC. And all of us are responsible in giving feedback and improvement ideas to our top tiers and the line management. So it's a both way kind of direction where we have to work as a team in understanding our responsibilities, our roles and responsibilities, and how we can improve quality in our organization. Another topic that is very important for all of us to consider, especially for our PMs and FCMs in the field, is that you are also a line manager to all of your subsidiary tiers, meaning that if you have other subcontractors, other people that are working in your projects, you will need to do the same thing where you flow down the requirement expectation and receive their feedback in order to improve the system. So CAS has a weekly plan of the week meeting that we get together and we discuss the work that is going on in the lab and kind of try to collaborate on the work that is of high significance and critical nature. And this meeting is open to all, and the point of contacts get together, they report on their activities, and other people listen just to understand what's going on in the lab, how does that affect their part of work. So if you hear something or you need to speak up, you need to talk to your line management and then present it in this meeting so other people can collaborate on the topic. And you need to know and understand who's your point of contact for each of these projects, or if you're part of a research or facility that is attending that meeting. The other important key element here is that people that are sitting in this meeting are not just listeners, so they have to contribute to the meeting if they hear that it needs more attention, or this is a platform where we are trying to improve our collaboration and teamwork. So the contract assurance and contract management department is directly under the laboratory director, Chi-Chang, and we have different sections. We have the prime contractor, institutional policy, assessment, risk management, and this is the section that I'm working under, which is the quality assurance and the work planning and control. And under work planning and control, we have engineering, construction, and other lab directorates. And the focus of our discussion is the construction aspect, and we usually divide those into our conventional projects and special 413 projects. So I provided this little chart. This you can find on the website, and you can find all the different contact information for the people that are responsible for these different sections. Let's talk about the QAP and why it's important. So our processes and documentation requirements are actually flown down from the Code of Federal Regulation in subpart A for quality assurance requirements, which is translated to a DOE order 414-1D that orders us to have a quality assurance program. So SLAC developed this program to be applicable to all the activities and all aspects of the lab for everybody in the lab. So if you are part of a project local AP and you have your own local QAP, this local QAP actually needs to be aligned with the SLAC quality assurance program. And what it does, it adds additional layer of controls and additional layers of requirements. So if you don't have that, you have to go back to the quality assurance program to make sure that you are performing according to this. So The same goes down to our subcontractor. So our subcontractors need to have their own QA/QC plan and program, and it needs to be aligned with our project local AP or the quality assurance program that we have. So this is a kind of discussion on the flow down of DOE contract requirements and how does that apply to you and your job, depending on where you are and what function you're performing. Now, one thing that I want to make sure that people don't confuse is that we call both QAP, meaning the quality assurance program and the quality assurance plan are both called the QAP at SLAC. And unfortunately, that creates some confusion. In other labs, they call it quality assurance program plan. But again, keep in mind that if it's local, it means that it has more specific information pertaining to that project or task. Another discussion that I wanted to bring up at this point is the graded approach, meaning that since we can't apply all the criteria for our quality assurance program in all levels and all phases at the same time, what we do is we do this risk-based administrative control, which means that we look at the different level of analysis, the extent of documentation, and degree of rigor of the process control, depending on the significance, importance to safety and life cycle state of the facility and the pragmatic mission before deciding which ones to focus on and prioritize. This does not mean that we are waiving any requirements. It just means that we have a better managerial control on what needs to be looked at different stages and different times, depending on the nature of the work. So to give you an example, I've developed this scheduling example that most of us are familiar with. So we don't have just one schedule in our construction projects, for example. In the beginning phases, we might have a master planning schedule where we define and track milestones, establish promises, and set phases and overlaps. As we do phase planning, we look at collaboratively building plans that focus on handoffs and satisfying all the definable feature of work. When the work starts, then we look at, for example, what can we do? And that's done through a look ahead pool planning, which is like usually a 6-week look ahead. And we identify and remove constraints and make it work ready. And then as we are proceeding with the work and we want to establish commitments from our team members with reliable promises and sequencing and duration are finalized, this is what we will do. However, in the lower level, which is the daily huddle, we talk about rapid and agile readjustments, final coordination, safety checks, what we're going to do today, what we did yesterday, and what we are planning to do tomorrow. So it's very focused on the activities. So with this simple example, you can see what are the key elements that we need to focus on, and from the quality graded approach, what we need to look at each phase and each level. Finally, we're going to talk about the FNO quality assurance. So there are two terms that people from outside SLAC are very, very familiar with, or they've heard in many different places. And I want to talk about the quality management system and the quality construction quality management. So as we discussed, the compliance with the DOE Order 414.1D and the contract assurance system and the quality assurance program has been translated to this site compliance plan that we have. And all of those have been translated to become the SLAC policy. So we have the conduct of project management, conduct of engineering, the ESNH manual, and all those have been summarized and implemented in what we call the project implementation manual. So the project implementation manual is for project managers to understand what is the minimum requirement from SLAC perspective to do projects, and for all conventional 413 projects and everything. Now, for 413 projects, we have additional rigor, we have additional documentation. So these need to be aligned. It's not that just because we have 413 project, we forget about the PIM. All our PMs need to know what is in PIM. If they don't agree with it, or if it's not what they're doing in their jobs, that's something that we need to work with the PM lead to identify and kind of improve on our PIM. Then for our FCMs in the field, we have what we call the CM manual, which is the construction management manual. And the construction management manual actually takes the PM standards and procedures, the engineering standards, the PIM checklist, and other manuals in consideration from ESNH and other things, and actually provides the FCMs with a clear direction and requirements and expectation of how they manage their site. So you have to get very familiar with these two documents if you are in the FNO handling projects and designing and construction services. In the AEC industry, which is the architectural engineering and construction industry, we have a term we call quality management system. And a lot of people ask, well, where is it? How come we don't have one in SLAC? Well, QMS is actually the quality manual, quality plan, and the quality control checklist. And this happens in construction when you have a subcontractor in SLAC, which is the prime contractor or general contractor at your job site, and they would have to have a QMS system. And what it is part of the entire construction quality management that we're going to look at. Now, as I mentioned, most of the quality that we do in the field is part of the risk management that we do for our projects. We have to look at safety, we have to look at compliance with laws and regulations, and we need to make sure that the project is performed within the time allowed and the budget. So all this needs to be translated to business intelligence that feed back to the system, make sure that we are selecting the right subcontractors, we are engaging with our stakeholders, and making sure that we have a good quality project. Another term, the construction quality management, depends on what kind of framework or philosophy and methodology you are using as your way of work. Most of our requirements are coming from federal government, so many of us are familiar with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers CQM. However, there are other methodologies out there that we can pick and choose and improve the way we do work at SLAC. So for example, the pool planning comes from the Lean Construction Institute, or the CII has the Advanced Work Packaging System. Our pay applications are done by AIA forms. So all those things are coming from different organizations, associations, as they have collective best practices, and how we apply it at SLAC depends on how we choose our way of work. So we can produce other process and procedures, we can use and we can pick any tools and techniques that could help us and improve how we do things. So just want to make sure that everybody understand that this CQM is the construction quality management at every level. So it's a multi-layer QA/QC, and it has to happen at every level and every phase. It's not like a particular program or particular person doing this. Everybody's responsible for this QA/QC. So just to apply these to our SLAC requirements, what I've done here in this slide is I made it a little bit simpler for everyone to see what are those 10 DOE criteria that we need to assure DOE that we are doing a good quality program. And it actually divides into 3 sections: the management part, the performance, and the assurance. So the QA is actually knowing that we have a good management program and we are assessing it internally and coordinate any external independent assessment. So from QA department perspective, what we're looking for is to know if you have a program with structure and processes, you have the qualified personnel, and you have training for those personnel if they don't have the qualifications, the way that you are going to improve the system by preventing, correcting, and finding root cause analysis, and documentation to establish establish and maintain records that show that you do what you say you do. However, the quality control part of it is when you do actually the WPC activities, or you designing and procuring and constructing whatever you are working on. So this gray area is the part that you have to kind of do as your quality control. And we are kind of monitoring to make sure that you are doing it according to the plan that you set. So making sure that we are working together collaboratively, understanding what those requirements are, what do we need to do in order to assure a successful implementation of those expectations is the part that we can work together as a QA/QC. To simplify, this is my final slide, is to know these 5 major categories or components of our QAP. One is to have the process and procedures and the policies, and understanding that there are documentation out there that we need to align ourselves. Second is to know the workflows and the process improvement process of understanding what needs to be done in every aspect of our job, and how we can improve it to make it lean and simpler and faster in its execution. Third, we need to understand that everybody needs to learn and everybody needs to get the proper training. So if you are hired for whatever you're doing, it's because you had the qualification to join the SLAC system. However, the SLAC way of work is different from what we have seen in the industry. And as mentioned before, we are a learning organization, meaning that it's okay if you say you don't know something and ask people to help you with your line management or other mentor program that we have. So having these quality committees where you have other PMs, for example, share their best practices, or you have other FCMs discussing how they do things and kind of transition from the way that we did it in the field, like in the industry, with the way that we do it in SLAC, is only possible if you are attending those trainings and those discussions to learn more about it. The fourth component is the quality supervision. All of us are responsible for this quality supervision at our different levels, meaning that we have to do quality walks, walkthroughs, we call them the management walkarounds in SLAC, and do assessments that we see and we are watching to see that other people are doing what we are planning to do, and we can capture some kind of lessons learned and records of things happening in the field and in our projects. And finally is the quality culture and mindset. We always have to have this on our mind that everybody is responsible for quality. As you heard me many times say, safety first, quality always at SLAC, meaning that we have to have this mindset that all of us are responsible for quality. If we have any improvement ideas or feedback that we can give to the system, we are responsible to do that and kind of collaborate together in improving and achieving our quality efforts. That's it. This is the section that you can ask questions or send me information if you feel that I need to kind of improve these slides in some way or another. And I included 3 more slides in this presentation, just in case you guys want to look at more information. So this is all the CAS links that I was able to kind of put together. And I just wanted to show you that our quality assurance program is part of the CAS system. So it's not, we're not doing everything as the quality assurance program, but these are included in our CACM management. So for example, sometimes I participate in issue and improvement program and incident reporting and investigation processes. And some people kind of wonder why I'm doing this. This is part of our CACM program, and that's part of our functional department. But my main focus is the quality assurance program, policy, and the plan. So this is pretty much a good representation of all links, and you can click on all of those to go to the right one. Another slide that I have here is about the matrix organization and what it means. It means that you don't have just one line that is giving you line management expectation and requirements. We are a matrix organization in SLAC, which means we are projectized as well as functional. So we get things from our PM department or FCM department, that's functional. But then when we get together in a project, then we have to look at our project manager and kind of work with the project manager in order to know those requirement and expectation and be coordinated. So you're getting information from two or even multiple lines. So this article that I have included here, and this depiction of how those reporting levels change and at what the project scope you need to do, what kind of line management, is a good discussion in this article that you can read. Finally, I've included this slide to understand the different levels of documentation. And the reason this is important is most of us in SLAC don't have to worry about anything above the project plan side. However, if we don't have a project plan or we don't have specific documents that we can refer to for our activity, we can go to the SLAC policies and programs and procedures. At our level, when we go to the M&O contract assurance and site compliance plans to assure that the rest of the things that we're doing are aligned, this would be at our level. However, if you don't find any of these and you're looking to understand how DOE expects us to do things, you need to look at the directives, the guidelines, and the manuals. And in the manuals, you can find sometimes these technical standards, handbooks, and specifications for things that DOE expects us to do according to those. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention. And I hope that you can reach me out at my email or my mobile number, and I can respond to any questions and any issues that you might have. Thank you very much. Bye.